You're listening to the Changing Normal podcast, where we strive to outdo the old normal and reject the new normal. And now your hosts, Owen, Dan, and Ben.
Welcome to the Changing Normal podcast. This is episode 10. It's July 7th, 2022, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Owen and Dan. This week, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Fountain app and how that is kind of improving on podcasting and how you listen to them and how it involves Bitcoin. We're also going to be talking about guns. And like Neo says in the Matrix, lots of guns. And we got a little bit of a few news stories that we'll just kind of shoot off the cuff and kind of get our reactions to. But first off, guys, how you doing?
Great.
Yeah. Awesome.
What have you been up to lately?
Well, it's been this is kind of I noticed you didn't talk about my edit in the show notes when you said the date.
Oh, that we have a time machine?
We have a time machine, and this is through the magic of our secret time machine that we're recording this.
Didn't want to give out the secret too soon.
It's not actually July 7th that we're recording this, but
it's coming out on July 7th.
In other words, not a whole lot of time has passed, and I haven't done a whole lot. Yeah, nothing overly new with me. Been working a lot. So.
Okay. Yep. For me, I did do one cool thing on the weekend. I got a tour of a property that the owners want to do some permaculture or small farming type stuff with. So I was able to talk about their ideas and just really start thinking about some of that permaculture stuff, which I've always loved, and start thinking about the design principles and how they would apply to that particular landscape. So that was
neat.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I guess I have one correction to make. I did finish this morning. I finished the Book of Satoshi. I've been reading those on my lunch breaks and breakfast breaks and whatever at work. And so now I'm ready to start my next book. Of course, you can't read it because it's backwards.
Venice?
Bitcoin is Venice. So, I don't know. Well, I've heard it's highly recommended. So,
all right. You'll have to give us a review then. Now that you've teased the cover.
Yeah, that's right.
Cliff's notes of Book of Satoshi and Cliff's notes of Bitcoin is Venice.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe we should do that next week for the Crypto Corner.
Crypto Corner? Owen's Cliff's notes.
Wouldn't that just be Owen's notes? I don't.
No, yeah, you're right. It would just be.
I don't know Cliff. I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Owen's version of Cliff's notes.
What about you, Ben?
Well, most of my weekend has been consumed by work. I'm in the middle of a 10-day stretch, so I've been on fire standby the last few days, just kind of on standby, waiting for a call in regards to forest fires or whatever. But a lot of spare time I've had has been digging into the Fountain app for our Crypto Corner this week, kind of learn the ins and outs or finding the bugs and seeing how I can best relay the info to it. And then also just kind of looking at planning for nationals, figuring out rides and gear and how everything's going to work when we go to PEI for that end of this month. So,
right.
Not a super busy last few days. Wishing I was fishing, but kind of
I did enough fishing for both of us. So
nice. It's I was curious, Dan. Did seeing the property that the people were looking at doing some permaculture and some small farming, did thinking about how they would do it, did that change anything that was in your mind as far as yours, like your property and what you had planned for that, or what plans you may have had?
A lot of things that would be different, since it's still looking at the broader landscape and not like nitty-gritty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really many differences except those which are going to be driven by the specific conditions.
Right.
So when I'm looking at the soil and it's like a much more dense clay than what I'm used to on my own property, then definitely have to look at treating it a little more gently. So right off the bat, I'm like thinking like zero tillage at all, which is not any different than I want to do on my own property, even though it has a little more leeway. It could take a little more abuse in that way, simply because it's more towards loam instead of a heavy clay. So with that heavy clay, though, you just want to be careful with that. And I think there'd be a lot of value in keystone or keyline subsoiling.
Okay.
Yeah, try to break through some of that clay layer and deepen the topsoil. So I think there's a lot of potential in that. I'd really love to see it in person over time, though. But mainly, building soil structure, putting some carbon in the soil, retaining water. Those things apply pretty much anywhere.
Right.
Unless you're in a swamp, then you maybe don't try to retain more water, but unless you go to fishing. So yeah, these things are location dependent.
Well, the reason I asked that is I was listening to a podcast on that, and the fellow who was talking, he said, before you actually like design your like location specific permaculture setup or your homestead or whatever, do at least one other location, go through the planning for it. And then that will allow you to work out the kinks, but also maybe lend your mind to what may need to be changed at your own location. So
yeah, generally they recommend not to do your own property as your first property or your first design with permaculture, because what tends to happen is we'll approach our own property with a certain amount of bias, and maybe not give it the true permaculture design science that way. Right. Whereas when you're looking at someone else's property, you're looking at it very objectively. You really don't care what happens on that property in a sense. And so you're able to come a little bit more unbiasedly with no preconceived ideas and put, just apply the design science to it.
Right.
Yeah. It's easy to fall in love with an idea or two, and maybe it's hard to give them up, even if they should be. So having another set of eyes in that case is valuable.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with your friends. We're going to talk a little bit about value for value, but you can send us an email at changingnormal@protonmail.com. And on that value for value note, there's an app that's just kind of come out. It's like version 0.4.4 at this point, and it's called Fountain. And the website that it comes from is fountain.fm. And basically what it is it's keying into a concept with Bitcoin that you can stream content or anything that you consume on a, like, whether in this case, in Fountain's case, it's a podcast platform, but looking at like say Netflix or Spotify or something like that, where you pay a monthly subscription and you may only watch one show or listen to a couple albums or something like that. Whereas with Bitcoin and Satoshis and this value for value concept, you can consume content based on what you may have time for or what you may want to stream value for. So you can only listen, like you could stream 5 minutes of our podcast, the Changing Normal podcast, or you could stream 5 minutes of the Survival Podcast by Jack Spirko or something like that. And then while you stream, you can set a certain value for each second or minute streamed and how many Satoshis you want to stream that for.
Okay. So you actually set the amount that you're quote unquote donating.
Yep. Yeah.
When you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just fountain.fm is their main website. That's kind of where everything sort of gets started from. They have a lot of information. They have a blog up there that allows you to follow along with how they're updating the app and how they're finding the bugs and working those out, because it is new. It's very, very new. And I've heard Jack actually talk about that, because Jack Spirko is very keen on this value for value podcast streaming content consumption idea that Bitcoin allows for. And he himself has said, I love Fountain, but they're still working a lot of bugs out. So
how long has it been around? Like, do you know when their start date was?
I think it was around 6 months. I think it's within 6 months time frame. I didn't get a set time. Could be longer than that, but anyway, basically it just allows for the user to sign up. It only took me about 2 minutes to sign up, and all that was logging in with an email and then going to that email, logging in with clicking confirm with the code that they sent me, and then it was just a matter of setting my username, getting that set up. And then the awesome thing about the Fountain platform as well is that it utilizes the Lightning Network URL system.
Okay. Nice.
For tipping and Lightning payments and such.
So do they have an app, or is it just on browser?
No, it's actually mainly through the app. I haven't found a way to stream via the website, fountain.fm. That mainly will just direct you to, if you're a podcaster, it'll direct you to podcastindex.org, which is where you deal with adding a lightning block to your podcast's RSS feed, I believe it is. I'm still working through that with ours, trying to get everything working seamless and figured out as far as the lightning block goes in our Changing Normal podcast RSS feed. But it is mainly on mobile. I just tried to open it there and it crashed. So that's another little bug that they're working through and working on getting it all sorted out. So like I said,
it uses Lightning, the Lightning Network.
Yep.
To basically give value or quote unquote pay for value of things you listen to. So is there like a built-in wallet that you would then send?
That was my question.
No, sorry.
No.
I knew that and I wanted to steal it from you.
There's something of a wallet connected with your account, but it's custodial. So they do allow for withdrawal to any Lightning supported wallet. Another really cool thing about the Fountain app is that it allows you to earn by listening. So I've been trying this with a bunch of different podcasts that I listen to, from the Survival Podcast by Jack Spirko, Bitcoin Audible with Guy Swan, The Antithesis by Owen Strachan, Let's see what else. Reformed Operator and Undaunted.life by Kyle Thompson. And I've been able to earn sats or Satoshis just by listening to the podcast that I normally would listen to on Spotify. So
Okay.
a lot of the normal podcasts that are out there are able to be found on Fountain. Where it's new, it's still working on aggregating and compiling all of the RSS feeds that are out there, because there's hundreds and thousands of podcasts now that COVID has made everyone stay home and figure out something to do.
Right.
As we add another podcast into the RSS feed world. There's a few different ways that it allows content creators and podcasters to interact with people on the platform. So one way to support a podcast is to simply stream value for value. So you set the amount of Satoshis that you want to stream per minute or second. And then as you listen to that podcast, it's just streaming Satoshis to that content creator. Another way to do it is to boost it. So you can just send like a lump sum of Satoshi to capture, or you can clip, and the clipping just allows for a little, 2 minute to 5 minute, or however long you really decide. But it allows you to just pick one little spot out of a podcast, and then doing so, you can add hashtags to it and a set amount of Satoshis. It's very, very interesting how they just completely allow the user and the listener to set and decide at their own discretion how many sats or how much value they add or earn. So they also have
because it's not like the podcasts that you're listening to are charging for it, right? Like there's no requirement to
no, not at all. And in fact, they actually the podcasts set the amount that they give you as you stream their podcast.
Oh, okay.
I haven't found the ins and outs of that one yet. Like I said, there's a few little bugs that they're still working out, like that app crash.
Right. We are on there. I did find us.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just searched right now. I just literally, as you've been talking, I downloaded the app, logged in, created my account, and started searching for podcasts I know of. So I searched our podcast and it popped right up. That's the first thing.
Awesome. So maybe we'll be able to figure out the claim your wallet tab, which has not shown up for me. That is the bug that's the bug report that I have submitted to the team, because when you go to a podcast profile in the Fountain app, and there's usually the follow tab, there's a lightning bolt symbol, and then the usual, share or different links that you can tap when you go to the show. There's the share and the bookmark icon. But when you tap on the lightning symbol, if the lightning symbol is filled in yellow, that means that the podcaster has claimed their wallet and it allows you to stream value for value. So this is the catch with the value for value, is that the creator, so like on the What Is Money show by Robert Breedlove, he's claimed his podcast wallet on Fountain, which allows you to either boost it or just stream value for value, like sats per minute. So I haven't been able to do that with our podcast.
Interesting.
I'm not sure why, but again, I submitted a ticket, so hopefully that gets resolved. They're very they seem to be very transparent about where the sats that get utilized for value, whether it's a boost or just streaming. where they go. So they'll generally say like what the split is, and that is kind of like podcastindex.org, which is who they work their value for value through. And then the Fountain app itself, and then the Fountain user. So I tapped on the splits for the What is Money show, and it says 95% of this payment would go to the What is Money show on Fountain, 4% goes to Fountain, and 1% goes to podcastindex.org. So that allows for all the fees and everything to be covered for.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying using it. I mean, I'm kind of on the train to find and figure out where I can glean all of the possible sats that I can, stack them as much as possible.
From the perspective of people maybe listening to this show who aren't going to have their own podcast, are simply going to use it as a way to listen to podcasts. That is the potential value there, is that you can potentially earn sats just from listening.
That's correct. Yeah.
So that's, and then they can then use those sats either to spend, to give back to the shows they listen to, or be a hoarder and keep them.
It's interesting because Fountain's not the only value for value streaming app that's out there. So there's the Sphinx chat app, which allows same thing for streaming, but that's more of a support minded. There's not as much like you don't stack them yourself if you stream or boost or clip or whatever. And then there's also the Breeze wallet. So the Breeze wallet, the more I kind of learn about it, the more I like it as well. It allows for Lightning payments, on-chain Bitcoin payments, point of sale for a small business. And then it also allows for podcast listening to. And I believe it was Adam Curry that was kind of key in getting the Breeze wallet up and running and stuff. But I guess one thing I may have touched on it a little bit, but when you boost a post, it allows you to comment on it. So similar to like a YouTube comment, just that you're actually like supporting via Satoshis, and then a podcast can read said boost, and then there's also like it is a like function, and liking it will also support the person who boosted or clipped it as well. So there are ways to earn with Fountain just by listening. And then there's also ways to support your favorite podcasts or content creators that have their show on there. It's a really cool app. I'm still not fully down the rabbit hole yet on it, but.
So what do you think the benefit of, or maybe if you look into the future, what the benefit of a value for value system is? And by system, I mean, let's apply it to potentially more than podcasts. Like podcast seems like the easy thing to do right now, but I mean, there's other applications I expect for this type of thing. Looking on a little bigger scale, more of a philosophical crypto scale. I mean, Dan, do you have any ideas in that, or Ben? Like,
I mean, one way I've heard it spoken about was like using the what is it? The Adobe Photoshop room or Lightroom, whatever it is, and being able to just stream sats for how many hours you use the application versus paying for like a 1-year subscription or whatever it is. Similar. I mean,
well, I think that's really the intention, right? I mean, that's the idea behind it, is that you may not want to sign up for that Spotify premium account, or whatever the thing is, because you go, well, I only going to use this the odd time, or I only have one show I really like to listen to. I don't necessarily want to support all of these other things. I want to support the few things that I believe have value to me, and this allows you to do that
much more selective
in a peer-to-peer way with I'm not sure how to explain that in a way that I don't know that you can do with fiat, our current fiat system. Maybe you can. Maybe there's a way to do that, with a fiat currency instead of a Bitcoin type currency, but I don't know of it. I mean, I'd never heard of anything like this before, other than with Bitcoin.
Thinking about it, I'm not really sure how you could do that because the beauty of it is generally you can do it with a non-custodial wallet. There's minimal information linked to you.
Right.
And I think that's another big part of the beauty of it, is that you can do it for things that bring you the most value, that doesn't leave your information entirely out there. Right? Like Spotify requires a credit card, and not only that, like date of birth and everything else, they want your firstborn child as well. And not really.
But you're bypassing that trusted system, right? You're moving more to a trustless system, which is what Bitcoin is, and sending that value directly without using those third-party intermediaries that can permission you or not permission you.
Yeah. No, I like the Fountain app and where they're headed. It's a little still got growing pains, and a lot of apps and stuff and projects these days do, especially on Bitcoin, right? Like we're what, 12 years in, 13 years in, and so early adoption phase, but things are flying leaps and bounds on what can be done with sats and all the avenues that this could take us down. It's pretty exciting. I usually hear of a new app to try at least once a week. I'm like, my phone's running out of space. I can't do this anymore.
I guess so. Pros and cons, real quick.
Obviously the value for value, boosting plus earn. Like I said, the other apps that I know of as far as podcast streaming with Lightning, as far as I know, they don't allow for earning, just the supporting and tipping and stuff. So that's a big pro. The con would just be that right now, it's because it's in the early infantile stages, it's pretty buggy. So, sometimes it'll say something went wrong, retry, or they may not have exactly all of them. Or all of the podcasts. So you may have to, like initially I had to add our podcast by RSS feed. So that takes a little bit more technical know-how. But all in, I'm going to keep using it as my podcast streaming app, as more and more podcasts that I know and listen to come online there. So I don't mind stacking sats every day for stuff for something I would normally do.
Yeah, for sure. And so, so you can either set it up, it looks like, to either stream, to give value by like minute that you listen, or you can set it up to only boost. Maybe you said that already, but I may have missed it. So
yeah, now it's the whole, the whole value for value thing. That's the power of it. Like with the timestamps on our YouTube videos, it's like, oh, well, I only want to listen to the main topic because these guys talk about crypto way too much. But yeah, you can just, if you just want to listen to the Crypto Corner on the Changing Normal podcast, you just stream that for X amount of minutes, and then once we change topics, all right, there we go. That's good. I'm out of here.
Neat. Yeah, I'll have to mess around a little bit with this a little more and see how to set up the wallet so that I can send some sats to it. And then I just noticed that Guy Swan was on the Survival podcast last show. That is exciting. Those are two of my favorite podcasters. So I know what I'm downloading and listening tomorrow.
First thing in the morning on my drive to work. Yep. But okay, so let's change gears, do a complete 180. Well, actually, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Bitcoin is a great tool for freedom, and so are guns.
There you go.
So, I mean, maybe they're not entirely exclusive. But we had kind of talked about doing a, in the theme of the one ring to rule them all. How about one gun to rule them all?
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. That wasn't quite what I had in mind, but let's go with it. Yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about something completely different, basically.
And now for something completely different.
And so
there we go. That sounds a lot better.
Yeah, we were kind of not stumbling around, but we had a topic lined up, and we were like, this might be a little too much for what we're trying to do here tonight. So what is the one survival gun, if you can only pick one for a survival situation? So this isn't just regular situation, but a survival situation. What's the one gun to rule them all? Either caliber, maybe you want to throw out a actual model or something, brand. I don't know.
One gun.
This might be a little contentious,
no
possibly.
Chance to wish for more either. I mean, the immediate thing I thought of was a 12 gauge, but if I was to think about it a little more, I don't know. It does give you the most range of options, but not having a 22 is kind of tough because you're not doing anything sneaky with a 12 gauge.
Yeah, 12 gauges are about as far from subtle as you can get.
That's why they have the nickname Boomstick, right?
Exactly. Oh, there's a good audio clip I need to get for my soundboard. This is my Boomstick.
Ah, yes.
Some people may get the movie reference. Some people may not get the movie reference. Yeah, I'm partial to the 12 gauge. I mean, I'm partial to shotguns in general, but I mean, you're right. The pros are the variety of ammo that you can shoot out of the one gun that'll do so many different things. You can have birdshot, you can have buckshot, you can have slugs. You can basically hunt anything on Earth with a shotgun in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, unmatched versatility.
Yeah.
Just with the variety of rounds you can load in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing it can't do is long range, and
that's right.
As we mentioned, having any subtlety.
Yeah, and that's
maybe you could download a shotgun shell.
Download? Well, if you were loading your own, yes, you could. You'd be downloading the effectiveness of it as well. But that would be, yeah. I think the downside, probably the biggest downside to a 12 gauge or shotguns in general, is the bulkiness and weight of the ammo.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, if you're in a survival situation, you're possibly moving around a fair bit. We haven't set a lot of parameters for this discussion as far as long term or short term or what have you, but like a box of 12 gauge is pretty heavy. That's only 25 rounds. 25 rounds of another caliber, you wouldn't even notice it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's probably one of the main reasons I'd start leaning towards 22. Because you can grab a brick of this stuff and it's 5,000 rounds. And it weighs, I don't know what the weight would be, 3 or 4 pounds, I'm going to guess.
Probably
a bit more.
500 rounds, you mean?
500.
We talking gun or rounds?
Yeah. Rounds, yeah. Yeah, the box that you're talking about would be about 500 rounds. But yeah, it's
that's right.
Not super heavy and still pretty versatile. But it lacks maybe some of the stopping power that a heavier cartridge. So the Pro on the 22 side is lightweight, relatively quiet, and yeah, I don't know. I guess that's about it. Lightweight and relatively quiet.
It's got a bit more reach.
Yeah, a little bit more reach and enough stopping power to put down small game. But then the con might be the very con that would make you not choose it. Maybe you want something with a little bit more stopping power.
You would bump up to 22-250 then.
Well, okay. So here's another thing that is also that I would say is against 22-250, but for both shotgun and 22 is availability of the rounds.
Versus like 223 or something that's a little more military minded.
I mean, versus a 22 long rifle or a shotgun. Everyone has a 12 gauge shotgun and a 22 long rifle. I mean, that's just, they're so common.
Right.
That the ammo is readily available, relatively cheap, and not hard to find. But a 22-50 is a little bit more specialized.
Right.
I don't know how common 223 is really. Maybe it is really common, but at least around here, I feel like it's maybe not as common as.
Well, I was going to say, because the circle I grew up in and the people I hunted with and those who ran guns and shot long range and hunted with them, a 22-250 or a 223 was it was not unheard of to be in the arsenal, as well as a 270, I guess. And then actually 270 was very commonly touted as the gun for someone to hunt with, which was kind of interesting. But
so one of the other advantages might be from a 223 is that you can use it in maybe a semi-automatic.
Right.
The little more common in a box-fed semi-automatic.
I'm just thinking like less bulk, right? If we're talking survival, that's what gets me for 22-250 or 223 would be, relatively less bulky. I mean, obviously more bulky than a 22, especially a 22, but less bulky than a shotgun.
22-250 really is just a 308 cartridge, just neck down. So it's the same as carrying a bigger capacity round, like a bigger, heavier round. As far as carrying, that's all 22-250 is. Like they designed it just by taking a 308 cartridge and necking it down to a little tiny itsy bitsy bullet.
They shoot so flat for so far.
Yeah,
Such
well, they should
gun.
with all that powder behind them. They're screaming at like 4 million feet per second.
No, I'm partial to the the 300 Win Mag. I think that is I think that is ideal.
As a survival
Absolutely not.
gun. Yeah. No.
That's a take no prisoners attitude.
That's right. That squirrel, it's going down with one shot.
Don't even have to hit it. Just run the bullet right by its head. Concussive airwave blast will do it in. No, entirely not practical, especially for a survival situation. That's one that gets pulled out when you get drawn for a moose license, or you decide to go hunt caribou or elk or something.
Yeah, I guess. Still a little big for me.
The 30-06 is a pretty decent all in all. Just not.
That's pretty common too.
Not in like a survival situation though.
No, that's right. I think you have to kind of evaluate what do you anticipate your survival situation for your area to be.
Right.
If you're trying to survive in a quasi war-torn country, where you might have two-legged predators that you're actually trying to survive. Well, that's a little different. Then you're going to want you're not 22 long rifle's not going to cut it.
No.
If you're out in the rural area, you're going to want something 223 or bigger. Now, if you're in an urban area, you're trying to survive in an urban area, then maybe the shotgun's going to be good enough for you. Maybe that shotgun that gives you that versatility is what you want. Although in an urban area, you're probably not hunting much more than street cats or something. But.
Oh man. No, it's well, I guess that would kind of lead itself. I mean, where do you start looking at handgun and AR platforms as far as survival or?
Yeah, I mean, handguns really are. They don't have the stopping power, in my opinion, to be really something to consider in that scenario. I mean, I like handguns. Don't get me wrong. I shot a lot of handguns back in the day, but for me that they don't, there's no such thing as a one-stop shot with a handgun. Neither is there with a 22 really, but the range, the skill required to successfully utilize them, I take a shotgun. I mean, people think of shotgun as being very limited range, but I take a shotgun over a handgun any day for most applications.
I mean, your slug is gonna drop off around 75 meters. It's when it starts losing velocity. So
you can probably hit things with good power at 100, but you really got to know what kind of ballistics it's got. Because I think beyond 50, even you're seeing a bit of drop, or at least it's not likely going to be dialed in unless you've got a really good pairing of both barrel and say maybe rifled slug or something that just works well together.
Yeah,
the times I've tried slugs, they don't get a very tight group.
Yeah, and if you're going to compare and contrast that to a handgun, good luck hitting anything with a handgun beyond 25 yards if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep, I've done probably same as you, long range handgun shooting, which is like 50 yards, but you do that when you have all the time in the world.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, we used to do
make that shot in a hurry.
Back when I shot IPSC, we would go do shooter IPSC matches, and half the people would go home, and then a few of us would hang out at the range afterwards, and we'd shoot at 100 to 200 with them.
That was not playing around.
Oh no, that was pretty wild. And we could do as you do. We could shoot, minute of man at 100. But it was, that wasn't everybody. Not everybody was doing that. That was guys who were really dedicated and shot a lot, did a lot of practice. We're able to pull that off. But it's, I've had guys I've tried to teach it with handgun, and you put them 7 yards from the target and they can't hit it. Like literally can't hit a piece of paper, like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So it's definitely a harder skill to acquire. So for me, it has cool self-defense purposes as far as concealment and, portability. But in a survival situation, that's a pretty, to me, that's secondary.
Yep. Same. Secondary is the word for it. It really is always going to be a second option that's paired with something better and bigger.
Yeah.
So
how far should our government now is trying to completely ban anything that looks like an assault rifle, air quotes, assault rifle. I actually saw an assault rifle one time. It, you could load it right at the table. You just took the shaker and shook it into it, and you could kill bugs with it all day long.
I got one of those.
It didn't leave any mess, except for the salt laying around everywhere. But I guess I'm just trying to get how seriously should one consider the usefulness of an AR platform, arm light rifle platform with a survival scenario?
Yeah, I don't have. If people want to invest in that, I don't think I'd invest in an actual AR at this point. Go buy an AR if you want. I don't care. But from a practical perspective, I'd probably go with an AR type. Any sort of semi-automatic 5.56 or 2.23 capable firearm would be pretty good all around. But you are then limiting yourself a little bit to bigger game as far as hunting. It's a great self-defense tool if you're in that scenario that you think you're going to need that. But again, we didn't really define the parameters of what our survival situation was, so we're trying to cover all kinds of different bases.
Yeah. Well,
everybody, AR-15s that's a common name for that style of rifle. But I think more importantly is know your firearm, know how to use it, practice with it, get comfortable to the point that you can pick it up and hit a bullseye cold with it. That was always my goal with all of my firearms, whether it was my, Winchester lever action or my shotgun or anything, whatever I picked up, I wanted to say, if there's a target at a random range and I want to be able to hit it first shot, and that's what you're striving for, because in a survival situation, especially if it turns into some sort of long-term survival situation, every single bullet counts.
Yeah.
Because you may not have a resupply.
Yeah. Self-loading is not, in a poop hitting the fan situation. It's not, you're not going to run with your loading kit.
Turret press on the back, strap it down to a log. Gonna load and reload a few more, boys.
Not entirely practical.
No, that's right. That's the advantage of carrying, trying to run common calibers like a 12 gauge or 22 long rifle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the takedown 22s?
Oh, like a Chiappa or something like that.
Yeah, Chiappa, or I think Marlin makes one as well, maybe. Or I know the 1022s.
Ruger has one as well.
Ruger has one, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the Ruger 1022. I have one of those, and I think it's fantastic for carrying around or stowing in a vehicle. Anywhere a full length rifle is a little bit awkward. So backpacking, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it for those reasons, but you are limited in that you have to basically return to zero during the disassembly and assembly of the gun when you remove the barrel and forend from the receiver. It's like how precise are those parts machined, and when you lock them back together, basically, is the barrel pointing exactly where your scope is if you have a scope mounted on the receiver?
Right.
Yeah,
And
they
so
would
I think
probably that scenario.
practically limited to the iron sights on the barrel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's probably your best bet on that scenario is run iron sights. Yeah, a little easier to do the whole Kentucky windage thing if you find you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So that may be a limitation.
no,
sorry,
absolutely. Yeah,
I was just going to say that may be a limitation. Some people don't want not having an optic, and so in that case, I would say skip a takedown rifle.
Yeah, I was just about to go into that. Is the proficiency of having optics versus iron, like, or what style optics you run on said survival gun? Because I mean, you can get a red dot for a 12 gauge, but generally it's just a bead. As soon as you throw the red dot in there, you're starting to tote batteries around, unless it's a solar one, but
or you could get a Trichicon.
Fill me in.
Well, like Trichicon is like a forget the exact term, but it's almost like a phosphorescent type of sight that just glows.
Oh, like a fiber optic sort of.
Kind of, yeah, sort of something like that.
Just collects the sunlight or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
So those types of sights are right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we kind of covered shotguns a little bit. I mean, would there be any point in like looking at anything less than a 12 gauge?
Oh yeah.
I mean 20 gauge or
the ammo's less available for sure. Here's an idea. This might give you the best of both worlds. You could run a 12 gauge and you could buy yourself one of those caliber swap inserts. So you could buy a 22 long rifle insert for your 12 gauge.
Yeah.
Chamber insert. And then you actually have all the calibers. Not that those inserts are like super accurate, because you're basically giving yourself a barrel that's about 3 inches long. Not even, but it does give you that option.
Well, that was going to be that was what I was going to kind of try to get to, was the firearms that have the shotgun barrel as well as the 22. It's like an over and under firearm, just
over under
one that has a shotgun and a 22 as well. I mean, are you toting a 12 gauge at that point, or is it more of a 16-20 sort of scenario?
That's hard, isn't it? Because most of those either go 22 long rifle 410 or something like a 223 or 222 and 20 gauge.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever seen any of those with 12 gauge. I don't know what would be the pairing, the rifle pairing for that.
I was going to say, I haven't seen one with the 12 gauge.
300 Winchester Magnum.
Yeah.
Okay. One gun to rule them all. The ultimate boomstick.
Yeah.
Over under 12 gauge and 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
Stop a bear and an elephant at the same time.
That's what my grandfather hunted with. He hunted with he had a 222 Remington over a 20 gauge.
Nice.
Over under. That's what he hunted with. 222, as it turns out, is almost an obsolete cartridge now. And it's the forerunner of the 223. So they took the 222 and modified it to make the 223 cartridge.
What about I mean, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. But
Mhm.
what about a 0.17?
Hmm.
What are you guys' thoughts on that?
That's kind of a nice cross between, or quite nice compromise between 223 and 22 long rifle. I know it's not quite as, it's a smaller round, but it's much faster than a 22 long rifle. Again, it limits you somewhat in a game size.
Yeah, the price of rounds and just limitations and availability. I don't know if it's popular enough yet.
Hmm.
It is very effective, like even out to 100 yards, 150, you can push it out there, which you can't do with a 22 very well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, that was because I mean, like we've considered with 12 gauge versus 22 250 or things like that, the ammo availability and the acceptance. I mean, it's going to be part and parcel with which gun gets picked.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, boiling. No, go ahead, Dan.
Yep, I was going to say being prepared ahead of time, just due to that supply chain limitation potential, and so for that reason, I'm going to lean heavily towards the 22, just because I can stock up so much of it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yep, price point's low, should last forever.
Yeah, it does.
I would probably say that push come to shove, I'm probably picking the 22 as well. Maybe with a flip down scope, probably.
A flip down scope. Okay.
Yeah, like it'd be a compact optic that will click to the side and allow for
so basically hinge to one side.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just for a bit longer range. Now, the reliability of what that would be at longer range is in question, but that's probably what I would lean towards.
Well, I had set up on one of my my Bolt 22 years ago was I actually had open scope rings. So the way they were built was an open scope ring, and so you could actually you had to take a little bit higher cheek weld when looking through the scope because they sat a little higher. But if you wanted, you could scrunch right down and actually get the iron sights through underneath the scope,
right?
As well. Yeah.
Yep. So when it comes down to it, I think the 22 is the winner for any scenario where you aren't worried about predators. In which case, that's a totally different consideration, and you're not going to pass up on the 12 gauge.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, boys. I'm probably going 12 gauge every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't really matter if it's hungry wolves or a grizzly bear or two-legged kind. Yeah. You don't want to be stuck with just 22.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a raccoon absorb 22 shots. I don't want to know what a bear would be able to absorb.
Just like acupuncture for a grizzly, wouldn't it?
Oh my goodness.
When Dan goes missing in the Rockies, they're just going to find little piles of grizzly poop all over the place full of 22 shells.
Oh my land. What do you think? We wrapped that one up neatly with the bow?
Yeah, I think we've squeezed everything out of that we can.
Oh my goodness. Alrighty. Wins and losses. I guess I'm not sure if you guys kind of saw these or not. So it might be a little bit off the cuff for some of these.
I looked at them a little bit.
Okay. Right on. So down across the lines, we've been talking about how a spot ETF would really be the boom for Bitcoin. And unfortunately, we've had another spot ETF shot down. And there was a futures ETF that was also shot down. Basically, where a spot ETF trades on the current price of Bitcoin and a futures is linked to, I can't remember the term for it.
Yeah, but
Futures trading is more predicting the upcoming price.
Yeah,
it's all gambling,
right?
Like you're gambling basically with the futures, but that is based on, like a commodities kind of futures trading stock market type of thing. That's super scientific. That's the official terminology there. Yeah,
but
so
I mean,
it's not
basically. It's like what we're kind of waiting for to really help things in as far as the adoption sort of goes, right? Like,
well, I think what happens is it opens up a ton of institutional money.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we already have a fair bit with people trading or treating Bitcoin like a tech stock. But what we have right now is a lot of, unions and retirement funds and investments that people can't invest in Bitcoin. They're not allowed to,
Right.
in the future side of things. And so what you end up with a spot, that'll open that up to trillions of dollars of potential investment, which will drive the price of Bitcoin up because they'll be buying so much of it, the supply will go way down.
Right. Exactly. Another crypto hedge fund liquidated, and they quoted market crises and everything like that. But name of the company or the hedge fund was Three Arrows Capital, and basically just with everything that's been going on, the quote unquote bloodbath that the markets have seen in the last month or so and 2 months, they weren't totally or very well hedged against this. So unfortunately they've had to, it's kind of like the, Coinbase laying people off that we talked about last episode, right? Like things are just so bad that they're like, well, I guess we're just going to have to, throw in the towel and sell, liquidate it all.
Well, I think if there's anything to learn from this, I mean, a lot of people would look at this and say the sky is falling on crypto, which has been said many times before. But I think what we should take from this is that nobody can resist, just like governments can't resist with fiat printing and inflating the supply. Institutions can't resist fractional reserving what they're lending out. And that, to me, simply just reinforces the concept of self-custody and using the natural increase in this early adoption phase of something like Bitcoin as your investment gain.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. We're really seeing a lot of that sort of fractional reserve behavior, but it's not as easy to get away with when you don't have FDIC or CDIC insurance backstopping you when you make a bad investment and you can't pay out your depositors, right? So with our banks, that you put dollars in your bank account, that's backstopped. So they can get away with losses. These new institutions playing in the crypto market, there's nobody coming to bail them out.
Right.
And I think that's the way it should be, because if they're making bad investments, I want that to be obvious and in the open.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And that's why I love a company like ShakePay, which I know we've mentioned previously. And the question happened a lot with that initial big drop in the price of Bitcoin. Is like, how are you guys doing? Are you guys going to be okay? People were a little nervous. I think that was around the time of crypto.com and Celsius having their issues,
having to pull the plug.
And they basically went, nah, we're good. Like, we'll make a few little minor adjustments here and, whatever, but we're good because we're not overextending ourselves. We're not lending out. We're not, they're not involved in those things. They've made sure that they have the stockpiles and the reserves to continue their business model, even when the price of Bitcoin goes down.
Yeah.
Obviously they're an exchange. They're into a little bit different setup than something like Celsius or Fire or whatever. But the business model seems to be sound. The philosophy seems to be there for them to continue for a long time.
Yeah, and so that kind of leans into the more positive notes. This one just kind of piqued my interest because I was so kind of surprised by what countries it was. But it's the top 5 crypto adopting countries, and I should have realized that it was just the crypto adopting countries.
Not Bitcoin.
But, yeah, exactly. Case in point. But according to the Chainalysis blog, Vietnam, India, Pakistan, Ukraine, and Kenya were the top 5 crypto adoption countries. And when they looked at that, they looked at most analytically looking at everyday usage. So they didn't say anything in regards to which currencies or coins are being utilized. But it was very interesting because I know we've talked about El Salvador and the countries that are actually bringing Bitcoin on as legal tender. And I was surprised that they weren't on that list.
Right. Because the adoption that's happening is just simply a population. Like, it's just everyday people like you and me utilizing it.
Being influenced by the Dogecoin tweets.
Maybe. But I could see in a place like Kenya or even Vietnam, even India, there's probably a lot of unbanked people in those places.
Yeah, so that simply having a device that can connect to the internet and download an app that'll allow them to interact with one of these currencies, regardless of whether it's Bitcoin or, Algorand or
that's right,
Monero.
Yeah, so I think it's probably what we're seeing is just this, the idea of that people want to play with this stuff. And I don't know for sure the financial state of all these countries, but I suspect they might have a pretty high inflation rate, on their fiat currencies. So,
well, and the Russia-Ukraine situation is probably what propelled that one.
That's right. That's right.
But
I think even that article said even before the war started, Ukraine was really high in their crypto adoption rates.
Well, they do have a president that seems to be pretty up to speed on a lot of different things. He's not, kind of the old curmudgeon that's set in his ways, trying to run the country, and he's trying to stay a little bit more modern, I think. But speaking of some of the big guns in the Bitcoin world, Michael Saylor and Mr. Bukele doubled down on their Bitcoin stance. Saylor bought 480 Bitcoin and Bukele bought 80. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Probably not, but anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
They both tweeted about it, saying MicroStrategy has, Mr. Saylor is saying MicroStrategy has added 480 Bitcoin to their balance sheet, and Bukele was talking about getting another 80 Bitcoin when the price hit 19,000. So, I mean, when the president of your country is tweeting about getting more Bitcoin on your balance sheet, it can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that Michael Saylor has got the average price of the Bitcoin he has bought. Now this is US dollars. Is almost 21,000 US dollars. That's his average price.
Wow.
And you think about how high the price was, in the past when he was still buying, how low it must have been that he was buying some of it in order to, like, I know there was a lot of question when the price dropped. It was like, oh man, MicroStrategy is going to be in trouble. They're going to be insolvent because they've got all these digital assets and the price has dropped way off. But they probably bought so much of it so cheap that they're still, it's not like they're in the red with it. Maybe, I mean, maybe they are a little bit, but I don't know.
It's encouraging to see that everyday people who run countries and businesses that are this large. I mean, El Salvador's kind of small, but in the grand scheme of things, but these companies and countries are digging into the same currency that I am, and that the people that are in my circle of life are as well. And it's what does Spirko call it? He calls it asymmetrical warfare. I think.
Yeah, Bitcoin's very asymmetrical, and I think that's an important thing to note, that the average person can do this. That's not like anything we've ever seen or had before. This bypasses the hierarchy of inside investing and the free money from the money printer sort of control that the quote unquote nobility have always had, right? And this is why it's so important to adopt this now and not wait. Because as the saying goes, everyone's going to own Bitcoin eventually. The question is, are you going to adopt it now when it's cheap? Or are you going to adopt it later when you're going to pay a fair market value, but you're not going to get the natural increase of the free market at work?
I can see you're itching to say something, Dan.
I was just gonna say, I think it'll still be a huge benefit to the people, even the ones that are the latest adopters of Bitcoin. They'll still benefit from it being a sound money.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll still benefit from the ease of making exchanges with it and sending money around the world. But yeah, they will have missed the boat on the gains that come with early adoption.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that they'll gain, even if they begrudgingly, even if they hate it, even if they refuse to use it, they will benefit from the adoption of Bitcoin around the world. As that sound money does what sound money is going to do eventually, whether we see it in our lifetime or not, who knows? I think we probably will to a certain extent. But as we see all of those benefits of a sound monetary system, everyone benefits from that, whether whether they like it or not.
The value to the economy, that push towards the save and invest mindset, that push towards productivity overall. Yeah, that pays off for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can not want it to rain, but if it rains, it still benefits you.
I like it. So if you want to send any feedback on this episode, if you want to tell us that we are completely wrong on which caliber of firearm, or if I got something wrong on the fountain app.
So I want someone to email us and tell us that 50 BMG is the only way to go for a survival rifle.
30-30 with the scope. Nope, we're not doing that.
I will delete your email if you say that.
That email address to send us feedback is changingnormal@protonmail.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, like it. If you did like it, actually like it. Share it with your friends.
We don't care if you liked it or not. Hit the like button. Either way.
Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Tell people about it. Just want to try to help people, change their normal. We have our landing page is blueberry.com/changingnormal. Blueberry is BLUBRRY. Like I said, we're on Odysee and YouTube. Our Twitter handle is changing_normal. You can go join the Twitter cesspool and spew some hate at us if you like to over there.
And I would actually like to say something about the YouTube thing. If you do not if you listen to us on, I don't know, some other podcast app, still go, even if you don't listen to us there, go to the YouTube, hit the like and hit the subscribe button, because there's a lot of stuff we'd like to do with our YouTube channel, and we can't until we get to a certain number of subscribers.
So we need has a level.
Yeah, they have a level. And so we need to get to that level of subscribers so that we can actually, do automatic linking to Odysee and, a bunch of other stuff. So custom URLs and things like that. So yeah, even if you listen to us on, Stitcher or whatever, just take 2 minutes out of your day and go to the YouTube and subscribe and like it. And then, go back to whatever else you were doing before that.
And on those podcast apps, if you're not on Fountain yet, try it out. It doesn't take much. You might be hooked if you're a Bitcoin maxi like all of us. And a podcast nut. I will say, I wasn't into podcasting at first, but I mean, obviously I'm into it enough that I've started doing one with you guys. So leave us a rating and a review. And then if you wanted to send a donation via Lightning URL, changingnormal@fountain.fm. So folks, with that, thanks for listening. Remember, create your own new normal every day.